WV Uncommon Place. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate series to get to know the hosts. Along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episodes. The Uncommon Place digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacy and myself JR are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our Uncommon Place.
Welcome to West Virginia Uncommon Place. I am your host JR. Stacy's away on assignment, working on demo number 7. This episode, I'm paying homage to Gargoyles, cartoon that was one that Disney made, and it was an older demographic they were trying to reach, and it was real edgy, and it had a lot of concepts in it that, as a child, I didn't understand, but as I became an adult, I appreciated the cartoon way more than I ever thought I would. In my time as a kid, this thing came out, had a Super Nintendo video game, had some toys. I was into the toys then. By that time, I think I was like maybe 9, 10 maybe. Show came out in 94, only lasted a few seasons. Had some great, amazing characters in it. And Keith David, he had the voice for this episode. And if you know who Keith David is, you know that he is basically, he's the man. And he was Goliath. He was Thaylong and Officer Morgan also. So he played quite a few characters, but he played the main character. So you always had him just right there in his voice and his guidance. It's kind of like not like a Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince, but his voice just is always carried. It's narrated in life, and you hear him on everything and anything. Ed Asner was on there also, and Jonathan Frakes of Star Trek fame, Lieutenant Commander Riker. So, and then it had some other people, but none of them people matter to me. So we'll get into detail. A very simple concept. The Gargoyles, they were frozen in stone at night. Castle got moved to New York City by Xantos. And storyline goes like this. Some of the characters, Goliath, Brooklyn, Hudson, Lexington, and it was a few other ones that they ran around with Goliath, and they did what he needed to. Thaylong was a member, but they reconstructed him with some mechanical shit, so he was all crazy and stuff. But there were some tones and some minor, to me, some minor racial stuff that you could notice, or just sectional stuff that set it apart. And it just... It held a tight place with me. There were 78 half-an-hour episodes, and it came on in the last iteration of it. I didn't watch the third and final season, which I just watched on Disney Plus. It came out on ABC Saturday morning block, and everybody knows that the Saturday morning block in the 90s was crazy until its abrupt end one day. It just ended, and we never got it again. There was a comic book series released and some other things. I necessarily didn't dive that much into it, and legal issues with it have kept it at bay. It hasn't arisen but a few toys and different stuff like that. And the series was released on DVD, and I don't know, there was a lot more that was planned for it that never happened. And like, people just really dove into it and had like that cult following, and things that get a cult following don't necessarily get the recognition they need. And it was just one of those deals where I liked it, and I was very high on it, and stayed pretty much tight into it. And basically, to tell the story of how deep Gargoyles goes with me. It's real simple. And once again, this is one of these quick episodes. I've been doing some quick episodes lately just to get some things out in the air that I want to do and stuff like that. What it was at this time when the show was coming on, I was really deep into reading things. So this took me away from reading stuff, and it kind of like made me challenge things, and it gave me worked on my morale and my morality, both things. Because Goliath questioned things. He always wondered about his place amongst the humans and how they weren't supposed to intertwine with him, and certain things didn't align, and the treachery and the lies and the deceit that happened in the world, you could see him take place there. And you could see that promises weren't honored. And that was the main thing for me, the whole deal of promises not being honored. And that theme stuck with me even as an adult. I was like, man, I can go back and remember this from this episode. And like, the thing that was amazing was the character arcs. The character arc of this just like put me in a mode, and it was one of those things that just made for a great episode, and it never took away from me. And later on in life, you could see like people just decorated, and there was conventions and all kinds of stuff that went on about Gargoyles, and it just, I don't know, like the show just stuck with me. It's not a lot to talk about because it's one of those things that you just have to see the video and watch it, and you'll find stuff. But even like the toys were built different than the other toys from when I was a kid. So it wasn't necessarily something that I played with. It was some things that I just sat up on a shelf and had them organized a certain way and different things like that. But I know with Hudson, Brooklyn, and Lexington and all them, it was one being naive and just not fully engaging in the world like they should. The curiosity of these guys sometimes led them in trouble. And Goliath always had to rescue their ass. Or Goliath would be trying to do this or that, and he had a love for Demona. Demona had a love for him, but they couldn't get it right because Demona was always on her treachery shit and always betraying him. So it tied in real deep, and it just became a show that I watched, and I didn't never forget about it. I just didn't invest any more time in it because it was hard to find the DVDs and different things like that. So with that being said, that's all I got to say about Gargoyles. I want to thank you for listening to West Virginia and Commonplace, and dig deep. And if there's other little novelty things that you want me to go over, I'll definitely will go over them with you, with the audience. And check us out on TikTok. Check us out over on Twitch and every other place that we are. Once again, this is JR from West Virginia and Commonplace, and I am signing off.
Please follow WV Uncommonplace on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, TikTok, where we have some great content, Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit up the merch store at onecommonplace.square.site. Join the email list from the website, and rate, subscribe, and give feedback from your favorite podcatcher. And lastly, thanks for listening, and tune into the next episode.